They're coming for us. Get them. Get them. They're coming in hot.
I got one.
Don't get cocky, kid.
But it's a Pod Bros podcast.
What do you mean it's a podcast? You haven't been shooting? They're all over the place.
Well, no, but they've got all sorts of good shows like Pencil and Ink Reviews and The Guy Huddle and Players vs. Podcasts. I mean, was I supposed to?
Yes. What? How many podcasts do they have?
There's tons. You got other ones like The Accidental Wrestling Fan and Take Aim Outdoors.
That kind of sounds like we should make podcasts, not war.
Aww. What's up, everybody? I'm Richard.
And I'm Shawn.
And we're speaking the language of bromance. Hey.
What's up, man? So,
yeah.
So, when we started this thing a long time ago, like I'm a big fan of, like, I don't know if really the coincidence would be the right word, but like when like cool numbers and things match up, like it always gets me kind of excited. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool.
It's serendipity.
So, back in June, we just randomly picked a day to start this podcast off. Our first episode, we didn't even know if we wanted to label it 1 or 0. We ended up going with 0. And in doing that, when we release this podcast, episode 29, it is going to be my 29th birthday.
Oh, it's 29 and 29.
How crazy is that?
Add another 40 and you know what you got? What?
Death?
Yeah. No.
69.
Yeah.
Woohoo! I don't know. I kind of just grossed myself out thinking about myself being 69 years old and 69ing.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just one of those things as you get older, it's just you just like get used to like things looking the way they do because they slowly happen to you.
Right. I mean, yeah, you like the thought of like me being an old man trying to have sex is a very it's a scary thought because then like not only am I worried like how I'm gonna look, like I mean like what woman is gonna love my old body? I had enough trouble trying to find someone to like my young body. But not only that, like then you like run the danger of like injury. Like, you fall, like you're gonna have to have sex while like wearing your life alert.
The scary thing about that, though, is like, probably when you get to that age, you may just not want to have sex anymore. And that freaks me out quite a bit.
Oh God, me too. Although, like, I gotta say, like, I will be 33 this year, and so far, like, I mean, I'm going pretty strong. Like, I haven't had any signs of slowing down.
Yeah, I haven't heard is what like I don't talk to my parents about this much, but I don't know. It's probably a genetics thing, but if there's like a line where they say usually if you reach the age of 45, that's when your your testosterone takes a dive and you kind of start not wanting to get busy as much.
I think they say for men it's like in their 40s, because they say for men they reach their sexual peak at like what 21, like early
I think so, yeah.
early 20s. Is when you've reached what they call your sexual peak, where you're just like you're humping, like you look like you look at linoleum and think about sex, you know, like everything.
Isn't it fucked up that it's the reverse, that like women isn't theirs like kick off when they're like right at 40?
No, women's it's like mid 30s is when they apparently is when they reach their sexual peak.
It's like they can't meet at like the same and just kind of go at the same flow. It's women are kind of on the down when the guys are on the up, and then it reverses, and women are wanting it all the time. The guy's like, listen, nothing works. I'm sorry.
Well, that's why you got cougars.
That's true.
Also, I think it's fucked up that women in general go for older men.
Yeah.
And so, like, by the time you hit your sexual peak, you're going for guys that like their testosterone levels like in the toilet.
Well, is that more of just like a power and like money thing?
No, I honestly, I've wondered this for a while. I always thought it was like a maturity thing. Like,
oh yeah, okay.
Like, obviously, women mature faster than men. That's why women usually go for older guys, because it's like a maturity thing. At least this is my theory.
Makes sense, yeah.
Women go for older men because they're on the same level on a maturity scale.
Makes sense, yeah.
And guys go for older or younger girls because they're prettier.
That's probably a big ego thing too.
Oh, that's terrible.
But speaking of sexually activeness, and so we all know my fear of sharks. We've spoken about this a lot of times. I think.
Oh God, you're gonna have sex with a shark for your 29th birthday.
I'm gonna conquer my fear. Get back here, Flipper. Wait, no, Flipper. So there's something more scared of, or something more to be scared of in the ocean than sharks. So, there's a fear of being eaten. But when you go diving in the ocean, you think about diving. You see all these beautiful things, and I guess in the Cayman Islands, there's this one dolphin. Let's see if I can find their name real quick.
No.
That goes by the name of Stinky the loner dolphin. Floats around by itself.
Oh, that's so sad. Are dolphins like an offshoot of sharks? Like are sharks and dolphins similar?
I've always heard that dolphins are gay sharks. Do you want to know what show I heard that from? It's probably, I shouldn't say it because I'll get ridiculed, but that came from the TV show Glee.
Dolphins are gay sharks.
Yeah, that was the only line I think I laughed at from there. But so there's this dolphin called Stinky the loner dolphin that has been getting sexually aggressive with scuba divers. And there's a video where you see this dolphin come up and it's kind of like rubbing on this scuba diver. And in the camera you see his happy little dolphin wiener kind of poking out, trying to stab this dude on his leg or around him or whatever.
Aww. He just wants love, especially. Of course, why wouldn't he? Like if I'm sorry, like if I'm walking around and like that's my nickname, like everyone, hey, there's Stinky Richard. Like I'm humping everything I can see because like I need to get my confidence back.
Just hoping one takes.
This is like how Stella got her groove back, but with fish.
With this dolphin. And it's interesting because like I was thinking about this. So like whenever like a dog like humps the air or like humps your leg or something, like they're not really doing it sexually. They're just they're excited or they're just they're just happy or whatever. But dolphins, they say, are like the second most intelligent thing on Earth. So that guy knows what he's doing. Right. Stinky the loner dolphin knows what he's about to do to you.
Also, aren't dolphins the like one of only 3 animals that have sex for pleasure?
I've heard that too, yeah.
It's like us, dolphins, and pigs.
I haven't heard the pigs one, but yeah, I've heard the dolphin one. Because I've seen other videos. It's not Stinky, but it might be a relative of Stinky. Like whenever people are like, they get to swim with dolphins, and they're on that little like platform that's like half in the water, half not. You'll see the dolphins like jump out and start humping the girls, and the girls like, ha ha, it's so funny, get off me, Stinky.
Right. Doesn't work when I'm at the bar.
Well, what's more attractive, you or I humping somebody at a bar or a dolphin?
I don't know. How drunk is the dolphin?
Probably, like a 7 or an 8.
I'm gonna go with the dolphin's probably cuter.
It's got better press. I mean, they got Flipper and all those great TV shows.
Yeah.
So play this scenario out. So like, to me, I'm trying to figure out like what would be a bigger fear. Is like I jump in the water, like I just say, okay, I'm gonna go scuba diving for the first time ever. You jump in, you see a shark, like it may not attack you, but it's gonna get my heart rate going. But I see a dolphin, I'm gonna be like, oh hey, cool dolphin. Oh, it's coming over to me. Oh, it's oh god, dolphin.
And then you never speak of it again. Like you're sitting there, like now I'm picturing this scenario, like you're sitting in the shower, like the wetsuit's on the floor in front of the shower, and you're just
like
sitting
the crying
on the
floor. Come back on. You're like, so Shawn, how was your trip to Cancun? Was it bad?
What happens in the ocean stays in the ocean.
You're a dirty girl, Shawn. You're a dirty girl.
Oh, God, he's talking to himself again. Was it a shark? No, it was the dolphin.
I wish it was a shark. I could lose my arm, but I couldn't lose that.
Right? Yeah. See,
Interspecies erotica.
The shark takes your arm. The dolphin takes your innocence.
Oh, man. Grossest thing ever.
Wow.
I wonder what the dolphin does after he finishes. Like, if he's not really a loner dolphin, he just goes back to the group and be like, hey, guess what I just did, guys?
He, like, uses his nose and, like, splashes water on him. Clean yourself up.
Finishes and just swims away. Doesn't call.
Right.
Doesn't write.
Until you get the call. I have dolphin herpes. I think you should get yourself checked.
I have barnacles. The gift of the sea that keeps on giving.
So, okay, so it's just this cute, there's this cute news story about this. Like, no one is like, why is this dolphin doing this? Like, no one's asked. Like when you saw like the photo of like the gay penguins, everybody was like, well, why are they being gay penguins? Like, no one's like, why is this dolphin being overly aggressive sexually?
I mean, it kind of talks a little bit like some biologists have said, like dolphins are known to be very sexual creatures. I guess the males have been known to like engage in bisexual or homosexuality, which that would be something awesome to dive into, is like this big dolphin orgy.
Right?
Like, you know, you've had this experience with Stinky. You're like, all right, I'm gonna conquer my fear. It was a one-time thing.
Look at that wetsuit. Somebody looks fabulous.
Jump in like, oh god, there's a horde of them. What are they doing to each other? Can't swim fast enough to get away from that.
Or do you think? I'm thinking maybe the dolphin just like has like maybe like with a name like Stinky, like it probably just got rejected from the other dolphins, and so now it's bouncing over to humans.
Well, it's weird that it's a loner dolphin too, that they call it that. So it's by itself. So I mean, he probably was known to do this with all the other dolphins. So they just left him one day.
I can't masturbate with flippers.
I can't reach. It's too far.
See, you know what? Another animal that would probably do the same thing, but would be a much more grisly scenario: Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Oh man,
I can't reach with my tiny arms. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's just that, like, if this dolphin was able to, like, pleasure itself in some way, then it would probably leave humans alone.
Maybe.
Like, it's just like, look, like, what do you expect me to do? Like, I have these flippers. I can't touch myself. Like, what am I going to fuck around here? Rocks?
Have you ever tried to have sex with sand? It hurts.
Right? You stick your dick in a coral reef, and we'll see how you like it. You jerk.
I have heard that like horses, because they can't reach, so they'll like smack it against their stomach over and over until they, finish on themselves. So I wonder if the dolphin could do the same thing.
No, because you got like that viscosity of water.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not like they can like flop it around unless it's like, a very well endowed dolphin.
Well, this dude looked pretty, impressive when he swam by the guy he was trying to have relations with.
Were you intimidated a little bit?
A little bit. I mean, if that thing came at me, I wouldn't be too excited for sure.
It's a BDD.
A what?
A big dolphin dick.
Big dolphin dick, a BDD.
Yeah.
It's the John Holmes of the
Yeah.
underworld.
Yeah. You're going to see that on RedTube in a good week and a half.
Yeah, it's always kind of interesting. You see like turtles and stuff whenever they have sex. It's and kind of wrapping it back around with dinosaurs. In Jurassic Park, the velociraptors.
Yeah.
The sound they used for that was turtles having sex.
Really?
Yeah, I just read that recently. Because I mean, you've seen videos of those guys getting it on.
Yeah. See, now I'm picturing like. No, see, this is wrong. See, now I'm picturing like velociraptors like going through the kitchen, and like when they're like I'm picturing the mouth opening, and then you hear like, Donatello, what are you doing?
Oh God! Why hasn't that movie been made? That would be.
Like, what's that? Oh, that's turtles having sex.
I'm surprised Hustler hasn't picked that one up, the turtle porn remix, and that's what happens when one of the turtles dressed up. It just keeps going, Cowabunga! Uh, so I'm growing old. I'm 29 years old.
No, stop it.
Next year I'll
You're
be
not even
30.
30. You're
That's.
not even 30.
I'm not sure how I'm gonna feel about turning 30.
Do you feel like you're going to have like some sort of crisis?
I don't know. Um, I guess I could.
I was really afraid that I was going to. I was really afraid. Like when I hit 20, 29, like I was really scared that I was going to have this like existential fucking crisis where I was going to be like, "Oh, what does it all mean?" and everything. And I mean, I guess maybe I kind of did, but once as the day got closer to turning 30, it got less and less important. So when it actually happened, I was just kind of like, whatever. Plus I had the Avengers.
Yeah.
So that's what I did on my 30th birthday. I went and saw the Avengers again for like the second time.
Well, I mean, when I turn 30, it'll be the year of the Turtles too. So I'll have that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You really looking forward to that now, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I'm pumped. But I don't know. I mean, I kind of have like that thought of like, what does it all mean like throughout the year, I guess, like in small chunks. So hopefully I won't have that, one day I'll be rolling up in a Harley and a leather jacket and Tiffany will be like, what are you doing? Join a gang, sweetie.
The disciples of
Bromance. We're not very
Satan.
original.
That's all we got. There's only two of us, but
yeah, who's in this gang? It's me and Richard. So it's not a gang. It is a gang. It's not. No, it's
so
not.
far we've stolen this promo sign from McDonald's.
Well,
Band to the bone, bitches.
Well, they kind of gave it to us, but
And we did. I mean, we gave them like $5, but it was totally worth 10.
So technically, we did steal it. Yes.
I mean, I don't know. Like you don't strike me as the type that's gonna have like a midlife crisis or any sort of existential crisis. Like I don't see that. I don't see that happening. I don't see you pulling up in like a sports car or starting to look at younger women or I don't know all the other bullshit that supposedly we do when we get older.
Yeah, I think it's just because I don't like the hassle. Because like you always hear about like the dudes that cheat on their wives and stuff, and it's just like, I mean, there's just so much effort. Like you have to hide it.
I'm not that smart.
Oh, that too. Yeah. I mean, if I did anything like that, I'd come home crying, asking for forgiveness. Even if I just thought about it, I would come home crying and asking for forgiveness.
Yeah, I'm not that smart to keep the ruse, to keep any sort of ruse. And it's not that I'm a terrible liar. It's just that I could see I'm the guy that like leaves the porn in the VCR. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm the guy that like accidentally left the DVD in the I said VCR. I dated myself right there. I'm the guy that leaves the DVD in the player. Like, what's this? Gotta go.
It came with the DVD
Player.
Shit, player.
I gotta go. Yeah, I mean, I don't. And like with that, like you have to have like your phone like basically attached to your hip,
Yeah.
like at all times.
It has to
You
be
have
flipped
to like
over, and
you have to like keep like a schedule juggled, like, and you have to like constantly know what she's doing so that way you can be okay with what you're doing. And
I just don't see how that would be worth it. I mean, no booty can be that great because I mean, even if it is that great, like it's like just leave your wife,
right?
There's easier ways to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's always kind of how I felt. It's like if I feel like doing that, that probably means I shouldn't be with, even when I was in like high school and stuff. It's like, if I feel like I should be doing that with somebody else, I probably shouldn't be with the person I'm with. Women. But it's something you kind of brought up recently too, and just kind of like thinking about getting older and past generations. And you sent me this thing off of Reddit where I think it was like explain it to me like I'm 5 years old.
Yes, it was in the explain like I'm 5 subreddit. It was a very honest. It's a very small question, but it brings up not only a huge issue, not only for us as a country, but I would say like it's a generational thing. For I would say, compares us to, say, our parents, and it maybe even compares us ourselves to like the life our children will have. It's a very it was a very poignant thing. It was in the Explain Like I'm 5 subreddit. It was about it kind of delved into wage inequality,
Hmm.
and it was
Yeah, because it's not really like gender inequality. It's more of like generational inequality, right?
yeah, it said the millennial generation appears to be so much poorer than those of their parents. For most, ever owning a house seems unlikely, and even car ownership is much less common. What exactly happened to cause this? I mean, obviously, you can't quantify that in a very simple and subtle and succinct answer.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different things that kind of play into that. I mean, I don't think there's just one thing that's the cause of it, but it seems like there's just a lot of. I mean, you could break it down to a few things. I think, college being where a lot of people are getting pushed nowadays. You add onto that the cost of college is ridiculous.
It's stupid ridiculous, and in most cases, it doesn't justify the type of work that you go out to get.
Well, and I'm not sure I'm not sure like how they've been like kind of explaining to your kids in school and stuff, but I know like when I was in high school and grade school, my parents and my grandparents were telling me it's like you got to go to college. That's the only way you're going to make money. You have to go to college.
Yeah, mine too. I mean, that was kind of mine too. The whole thing was you can work with your back or you can work with your head. It's up to you. Like that was kind of like drummed into you as a kid.
But they give you kind of like conflicting points on that because they say go to college. You're like, okay, well, what should I do when I go to college? It's like, well, study whatever you love. It's like, okay, well, I really love art. I'm gonna major in major in art. I don't know how many great jobs there are that deal with art, but it seems like that's one of the degrees that it's very difficult to make a strong living in.
I agree. My favorite one is always philosophy.
Yeah.
I love the philosophy major. Like, what are you majoring in? Philosophy.
It's like, well, what are you going to do with that? Well, somebody's
Yeah.
going to pay me to philosophize, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
When
sure.
when you get out of school, like, I mean, like, are the philosophy companies like really hiring? The big philosophy companies, is there a big market in there?
Well, the problem is too is like at least when I was growing up, like if you ever said like I want to do this because I want to make money, like it's like, oh, you're doing it the wrong way. Like you shouldn't be doing it just for money. You should do it because you love it. It's like the first thing I did when they give you those little pamphlets to say, hey, here's the average of what all these degrees earn. I found the highest one that I thought I'd like, and that's what I went for. That, I mean, in one of my classes, the teacher's like, I'm just kind of curious what everybody picked for their majors.
Uh-huh.
And like he went down the line and like, everybody was very, typical or, it says, I major in history because I love history and I want to teach. I'm like, okay. And like I was waiting for somebody to be like, well, I want to go to college to make money, but nobody did. And it got to me and he's like, well, Shawn, what did you major in? I was like, well, I majored in, computer science. It's like, well, what'd you do that for? And I was like, well, and one day we're looking through stuff that showed how much people make, and computer science was one of the highest ones I thought I'd like. So that's what I did. He's like, all right, Shawn came in for the money. Good for him. And went on to the next person. But I don't know. I mean, I think that's something that you get those conflicting things is because they tell you to go to school for whatever you want, but you're coming out of there with $100,000 debt, which is pretty much a house.
Yeah.
And if you're only making barely above, like somebody who, is like working at a restaurant or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Usually like a college graduate. I mean, especially now, a college graduate, even if, and see, that's the thing is, I think that was the other thing is like, to our parents, a college degree, that was basically like a job guarantee paper.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, like college graduates, that's always got a job. They always had a job, and we're always able to find work. and decent paying work in anything. But now, I would say a college degree does not guarantee you not just well-paying work, but any work.
Yeah, I know. Like I hear stories about like one of the stories I recently heard. A guy, I think he had a master's in something, graduated, could not get a job, and ended up working at Home Depot, just as a cashier because that's the only job he could get at that point.
Uh-huh.
I guess some lady was in there with her grandson, and she pulled him aside and says, this is why you go to college. And it was kind of pointing at that guy, and the guy, I don't know if he ended up saying it to her or not, but it's pretty much like, you know what? I did go to college, and this is the job I have.
Right.
Because it's the only one I can get. And it's the conflicting thing, like I was going to mention earlier, I kind of forgot, but so my generation said you have to go to college, and if you told this anybody's like, I think I want to go to a trade school, I want to learn how to work on, heating and air conditioning, you would get just like why would you do that? There's no money in that whatsoever.
Exactly. And not only that, like it would be looked down upon, like on the societal, like social kind of scale. Like, oh, you work on heating and air conditioning, like that's like to them that's like jobs like plumber, like is the equivalent of something that may not necessarily be considered like an esteemed profession, like janitor.
Yeah. But I mean, have you ever tried to put in any kind of like dishwasher or anything? It's not easy. It's a pain in the ass. And those guys who, are plumbers or air conditioning and electronic type or electricity type people, they they make really good money because it's like, hey, your heater's broke. It's going to cost you $80 just for me to come look at it plus parts. And I always think it's interesting because you see a lot of those people that go to those trades. If they do it right, they start out by, working on their own or working for somebody. But as they get clients and they get bigger, they might hire one or two people. And before you know it, they have their own business. And they're making a lot of money.
Yeah, and they just, they just chill out in their office and answer the phone and, and send their guys out to do work.
And they didn't have to go to college for 4 years to get a degree. They go to a trade school, which I think are typically like 2 to 3 years or 2 years, and then you have your apprenticeship.
You go to trade school. You go to like it's programs usually like 18, 24 months, and then maybe they take a couple business courses on the side or whatever to learn like bookkeeping and stuff like that, and off they go. And why is that? Why is that considered less? Like a less noble thing than going to a 4-year college and walking out with a college degree and $100,000 in debt and no guarantee for work. Now, I mean, I'm not saying that like heating, let's say you go for like heating and air conditioning or plumbing or something like that. I'm not saying that guarantees you work either. I mean, obviously it doesn't. But I would say that the job market is it seems much better for those types of professions rather than, like people with an MBA or people with a, bachelor's degree in English literature.
Yeah, I think right now, like people for heating and air conditioning and like plumbing, like there haven't been as many people going into those type of jobs. So there's a big need for those. So like I don't know, like you said, it's not necessarily guaranteed, but if you go in and become a plumber or electrician, you have a really good odds of getting a job compared to somebody who probably goes in and gets an English degree just because of the numbers of people that have those type of skills.
Right, and also I would say it's I mean markets are different everywhere. I mean maybe the where you live, everybody, has an English degree, but, like 2-3 hours away, nobody has one. So you go there because, I mean, you go where the work is.
Yeah, that's true.
But I would say that overall, college, like a 4-year degree, I mean, like I said, a 4-year degree doesn't guarantee you a job. But not only that, I mean, a 4-year degree, it's almost getting to the point where people are saying, what's the point? Why should I go to 4 years of school, go over $100,000 in debt to get out getting a job making $40,000. How does that make sense?
You're gonna see. I think I don't know if it'll be like the generation after us or the generation after that, but I mean the discussion's already starting. It's like the risk and reward is just not there. Like you're spending a ton of money, but there's not much of a reward there. I mean, I think
it doesn't it's getting to the point where it doesn't justify.
because I think you could probably look at the numbers where they say like if you have a 4-year degree, you'll make X amount of money over your lifetime if compared to if you don't. But I mean, you go into some of those skilled jobs, like there's jobs out there that don't take you, to have to go to school for 4 years and spend all this money, and you could still get a really good paying job. But I mean, are those discussions do you know if like schools are like discussing any of that stuff with like the kids your age right now, or is that still something that is it still college still the thing that's getting pushed on like even your kids?
I mean, obviously it's still college. And I mean, I say it too. I find myself saying it too. Like, go to college, find it, cuz it gets drilled into you. But now I'm not I'm at the point now where I went to school. I went to college for, 2 years. I have an associate's degree in computer science. I have never worked a day in that type of work. I would say, one of the reasons I would say would probably be the market where I was. Another reason I would say, would be that not a lot of people want someone with just an associate's degree. I totally understand that.
Well, that's what's interesting. Like computer science, I think is one of those that you almost go to a college and it's more of a trade skill than it is like a I don't know, like if you call it like a arts degree or anything like that, even though it is a BA degree, because you're learning a skill that's going to be used other places. Whereas like I think with like English degrees and that, like you can teach with that, but I don't know, and this might be just my ignorance, but I don't know of a lot of jobs you can get where with an English degree or art degree where you can just jump in and kind of use that as your skill.
Yeah, most people I know that have gotten English degrees actually end up selling something. They end up in sales,
Gotcha.
like insurance sale, say a salesperson, or or whatever.
Because it ends up becoming that your degree is just a way for you to get into the door to do something that doesn't. It's like, oh, well, you're important because you have a degree. We don't care what it's in. You just, you went to school for 4 more years than somebody out of high school.
Well, another point I would like to make is, when I was out looking for jobs with my, associates in computer science, there were occasions where I got offered work and they were, saying, okay, well, you can work, if we offer you a job, we're going to be paying you, I think at the time there, it was like just above minimum wage. Let's say like I think it was like $9.50 or $10 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and now considering where I was, like that's a decent wage. That was okay. It wasn't. It's not. Moon and stars, but it was decent. But at the time, I'm working in a kitchen, making $11.50 an hour.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why would I bother getting this job when I'm actually making more money doing the thing that I've been doing without any schooling at all?
I've heard a lot of people talk about that where like they have that job where they're in school that they're just doing to, kind of make some extra money on the side. And it's kind of that same scenario you just talked about. They get out and the job in their degree is like, hey, we're going to pay you this much money, but it's actually a decrease in pay from what they were doing.
Right.
If you find that job, and then the sad thing is too, like you spend 4 years at a school, that's 4 years less experience you have maybe doing somewhere else that you could actually grow into a decent paying position.
Right. And then you run it, and then the problem that everybody runs into, or the problem I would say most people run into, is the catch-22 scenario is when you go, like let's say you have your degree and you go to get a job and you sit down for an interview and they'd say, well, I mean, like you graduated, summa cum laude, you have excellent marks and everything looks great. We're just kind of looking for somebody with more experience.
Yeah. I love that when I finished school and I was looking for like a job, and you always see that on everything. It's like entry level job, 2 to 3 years experience.
Right.
You're like,
And yeah, that's the fucking catch-22 of it. Well, we're looking for somebody with more experience, and then you say, well, I need a job to get the
Yeah.
experience so that way I have experience. How am I supposed to get experience if all the jobs want experience?
Yeah, I mean, you get internships, but even then, you only have a year of that. So you say, well, I've got a year of experience in an internship. And like, yeah, well, internships really are just internships, but we're looking for actual experience.
Right.
And it's just like, so what do you do?
I don't know.
But so I don't know if this will get too deep or not, but I know you went 2 years of a school and got your associates. Do you ever wish that you finished and got your other 2 years, or?
I don't know, because I would at that point, like, I mean, hypothetically, I could have gone another 2 years, gotten a bachelor's degree, gotten a decent job, and made okay money. Or I could have gone 2 years and wound up doing the same thing I was doing because I couldn't find a job that would sustain me the way the work I was doing. I couldn't find anything on that level.
Yeah. Well, I know the area we were from, because that's where I graduated. There was absolutely no money for a computer science degree. I mean, technology in that aspect really hasn't reached that area.
Right.
There was a few jobs, but I mean, since there was just so few jobs that they thought they could pay very, very little money.
Right.
So you definitely had to leave that area to make any kind of income worth the college tuition, basically.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, I mean, I would say that, like, you look at like the amount of debt that would have occurred over those 2 years, would it have been worth it? And I mean, also I mean, this is just speaking from my own personal situation, but like, I have to consider that I'm trying to, support 3 kids.
Yeah.
So I can't take a job that makes less money, because then, I have to make, I have to sacrifice and do things, not just on behalf of, I mean, it's easy for me, if it was just me and be like, oh yeah, let's say I'm living in a house, be like, oh, I'll just get like an efficiency apartment or whatever. I'll just lower my expenses so that way it will justify this decrease in pay, but I get to do something that I want. That's all fine and good. But when I have other people that I have to consider, I have to factor that into those. I can't necessarily lower my expenses that much. Especially when you're kind of living on the wire anyway.
Yeah, because you'd be taking a decrease, and then you'd have the debt on top of that of school that you have to start paying.
Right.
Yeah, I always think it's interesting. I saw this cartoon. It was quite a few years ago, and it was this kid coming back home to live with his parents after college, and the parents are saying, it's like, oh my gosh, in our day we'd never had to come back and live with our parents, but you see this kid carrying like $250,000 in school debt, and he doesn't have a job. So it's like his only option is to live at home.
Right. Yeah. The top comment on this Reddit thread was the top comment I'm seeing right now is, in 1991 you could pay the average state university tuition with 11 hours per week at minimum wage.
Yeah, you look,
and we're talking about, this is when minimum wage. Let's see. In 1991, minimum wage would have been like just about almost $5.
oh wow,
Less than $5, I would say. I think it was like $4.65, $4.75 an hour.
Yeah, I saw a comment on there too. I don't know if it's true or not, but he said like in 1981 he was making $2,000 a year and living better than he does now.
You see, that's the thing. Where did the purchasing power go? Why is it that, like, you know, my not only was work it not only was it easier, I would say it seemed like it was easier to not only make a living, but it also seemed like it was easier to kind of change up your style of living. Like my grandfather was such a cool fucking dude. Coolest I mean, like, he died when I was little. But, like, I looked into, like, his life and stuff like that. Coolest fucking dude you could ever imagine. He worked in Los Angeles as a police detective, and this was like in
Oh,
the
nice.
50s.
Uh-huh.
Like in the 50s with the whole fucking like fedora hats and like I picturing him with like a fedora hat and a trench coat with like a, like talking like Bogart and shit.
Tell me he looked a little almost like you, because I would love to picture you
A
in
little
that
bit. I
outfit.
mean,
Okay.
like, obviously no beard and no super long hair, but yeah, a little. So then after that, then he went and moved to Chicago and worked I think he worked in the police department for a while, but then opened a pool hall and just like ran a pool hall. Like bar and pool tables and I mean, who does that? And why could it is it so does that just seem like an almost dreamlike scenario? Like, who could do that now?
Well, like I think about like my grandpa. I mean, he drove a truck, which was a decent paying job, but he could buy. He had this spot of land, which if I tried to buy now would be pretty expensive. And at the same time, he was able to buy another bigger piece of land and have them both paid off in 15 years.
Right.
Like that's the crazy thing. Like I've heard people talk about this, and they like these old the older generation be like, you guys make way more money than we ever did. And it's like, in your time, you're able to buy a house, have it paid off in 15 years, send your 3 kids to college, have it paid off, and the wife could still stay at home and still have a comfortable living.
Right. And I mean, so the question is I guess, like, what's the cause of that? Would the cause of that be, the double armed, double fisted embrace and fist fuck that we have given what the great mother of consumer debt? Is it the fact that we as a society or we as people have just decided to like embrace debt and being in debt and taking on debt?
I think so, a little bit. I mean, you look at like I always think about like cars, for example. Tiffany's dad always tells me stories like he paid cash 3 grand for a brand new Dodge Charger, and like I think it was like 70 something. And then that was a lot of money back then. But like you look at like if I want to go out and buy a brand new Charger right now, it's $40,000.
Right.
It's like houses back then were like $16,000. Now that same house could sell for 140. It's just I think things have grown so much.
Yeah, I mean, there's houses in San Diego, that were bought like, 30, 40 years ago for like 50 grand and now they're worth like 750,
Yeah.
almost a million, some even over a million. Like, how does something doesn't add up. That doesn't compute. How does that work while at the same time we're apparently so much better off, but we're not?
Well, I mean, I think that's probably part of it. I mean, going back to that car example, like I'm not okay personally, but there's people out there okay. It's like, listen, I'll buy this $40,000 car. It's basically, it's not a good investment. I'm not getting any money out of it. It's almost half of what a decent house could be. And I'm gonna spend, $500 a month on it for, 8 years because I have a nice flashy car and I'll probably trade it in after 2. But we also have like, they didn't have cell phones back then or cable TV, or there's a lot of other expenses I've seen that like they didn't have those back then that we do now.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that. I mean, there are a lot of like those little nitpicky expenses that we don't have. But I don't know. I'm going to stand firm on the belief that there's a fundamental problem somewhere when working wages, it seems like, have gone down. Like just not necessarily working wages, but our purchasing power as the middle class. Our purchasing power has decreased drastically. Our money is, I mean, inflation aside, our money is definitely not worth what it was worth.
What is it just like you think houses and cars and things like that, like the big items have gone up so much more? Because, I mean, I've seen comparisons with like food and stuff, but I mean, it's always difficult to see the comparisons to say like, well, back then they spent 3 cents on, a gallon of milk, and today we spend $3. But it's like, well, they're making $1.50 an hour compared to, like 10, $15 an hour now. It's always seems real skewed, but you don't really know how to compare it.
Right. And it's like you said, like there's a lot of little miscellaneous expenses in there, but it just, when we're talking about something like having a home, like having a house, like buying a house or buying a car, it seems, I mean, there's definitely, I would say, a decrease in our generation in something like that being possible. And is it because there's an inequality that we're not seeing, or is it because we just, our money isn't worth what it was?
Well, I think if you play it through, if you're the person that goes to school for 4 years, I mean, you're really already coming out with a house debt, $100,000, $80,000. You already have that house debt.
They say college tuition has increased over the last 20 years. College tuition has gone up over 1,000%. 10 times. It is 10 times more expensive to go to school than it was 20, 30 years ago. How does that make sense?
I think what I've heard, and it's kind of a supply and demand thing, is the government started saying, hey, we will give you loans for you to go to school. And so now these colleges are like, hey, all these people are getting free money, well, free in quotes, money to come to school. We can jack up the price as high as we want because they'll keep coming. So, there's going to be 1,000 new kids here no matter if we charge this amount or this amount. So we might as well charge as much as humanly possible to make money. And, I mean, it's funny. I was watching a comedy show, a skit comedy show, and it was these Canadians who came down to look at schools at the U.S. And so they're sitting there with the dean of admissions and like, so how much are you guys going to pay us to come here to, school here? And he's like, oh, no. Here you have to actually pay to go to school. I'm like, oh, that's crazy because, in Canada, they pay us to go to school. And the dean's kind of like, oh, well, I like that idea. But still, you have to pay money to go to school here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all great. Sounds great, Canuck. Now fork it over.
Yeah. And I mean, I kind of think about that like,
listen here. This is what your tuition bill's all about.
Let me tell you again. But I mean, I'm kind of on the fence on that because I mean, there's, I guess either way, it's going to get abused because there's people now that continue their education because it's like, well, if I quit, I have to start paying this money, which I can't find a job, or I can keep going in school and get free money from the government, free again in quotes.
Right. So yeah. So at what point does that stop? At what point I don't know. Like, do we need to just stop loaning money to students to go to school, and then that will force colleges to drop tuition drastically?
It's definitely a possibility. I mean, if they said we're not giving out any more government loans, I mean, would banks just be like, hey, we're going to create this student loan type of thing, and then now you have the banks and the schools making money? I don't know.
Well, do. You have that now. I mean, you can go get an unsecured, non-government, loan for school.
That's true. I don't know. I mean, I kind of think about that, like what's this next generation going to do?
Because that's the thing is, it seems like it's getting worse. It's not that it's just staying at this level. It seems like it's ramping up.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, people are, I don't know if they're actually living longer, but there's more people living into their late 60s who are still working, and so jobs are getting more and more scarce because somebody's staying at a job until they're 65, unlike when they would retire when they're 50. So there's 15 more years of people working with more of a population, so there's just not as many jobs out there as well.
Well, and also, I mean, you have to also consider the fact that, the working, the job environment is not what it was, 30, 40 years ago. 30, 40 years ago, it was, you work in factories.
Yeah, that's true.
We had manufacturing. My grandfather worked in an ammunition plant for 40 years. Like, that's it. Like, that was day in and day out. Like, he went in, he put in his 8, 10 hours and came home, and, and that's what he did. And he did that for 40 years. Like, that's unheard of
Yeah, nowadays.
anymore. Like, who works the same job for 40 years?
Yeah, I don't know what the average people work at jobs now, but yeah, there's a lot more bouncing around. You don't really see that guy who stays at the same place for, 35, 40 years, gets the gold watch, and then retires.
Right. And that seemed like that was what you did, especially for like my grandparents' generation. Maybe not necessarily for my parents' generation, but definitely my grandparents' generation, like that's what you did. I mean, they're coming off like that depression era kind of thing where, you held on, you got a job, you held on to that
Yeah.
thing like grim death.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know they're starting to bring some more factory jobs back here in the States, and that I think that can help some, because that's one of those things. It's like if you walk in off the street, you can usually get a job that works at those places if you want to put in the effort to learn how to do things, and you're just there consistently, and you halfway decent worker. Yeah, I'm curious to see, like, when I get to be my grandpa's age, what the environment's going to be like, because will people still be going to school? Will this still be the same problem? Are we still going to have kids who are just going to school, having these huge debts, and not having a job? Because at some point, there's got to be a breaking point. I don't know if we're at it now.
I think so. Yeah, I think we're reaching that something's got to give kind of point. I mean, you're looking. I mean, let's see. Like, this is a story I pulled from Forbes. It says one report by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist David K. Johnson, conducted for tax analysts, found that the incomes of the bottom 90% of Americans grew only $59 from 1966. I'm sorry, to 2011.
Wow.
I mean, that's adjusted for inflation.
Mm-hmm. So people are making $60 more considering inflation.
Right, for the bottom 90% of Americans, while incomes for the top 10% rose by $116,000.
Yeah, that's always an interesting argument. Where they talk about like the top 10% and like how much money they make, and I think I want to say it was like something from McDonald's where the CEO makes like a ridiculous amount of money, and they said the person says, like, if you took all the money the McDonald's person, the CEO, makes, and you spread it throughout all of McDonald's, I think they said like everybody would get like $1.25 raise. Like, it's when you consider the amount of people, it's not as much money as what it sounds like if you spread it out with everybody.
Okay, I get it.
It's giving somebody that much money seems ridiculous, I guess, but I don't know. I don't know where I really fall on that.
I don't know. I mean, to say that there's an inequality gap, I think I mean, to me, I think that's something that you can't explain away. Like, we have a very large inequality gap between you have middle class, and I would say that the upper middle class is shrinking. The middle class is getting slightly, is kind of roughly staying the same. But now over the last like 10 years, we've introduced an entirely new income bracket, and they call the working poor.
Yeah.
And that's that,
like lower middle class.
Lower middle class, that paycheck to paycheck, like, and that doesn't compute. Like, that doesn't make sense. Why is it that now we have a scenario where there's so many people that are like, if my grandfather, got sick, or there was some sort of injury or something like that, their finances would suffer a disruption, but it would level out. Hey, we're eating rice and beans for the next, couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, I'll be back at work and everything will be fine, and the ship will right itself. Now you have a scenario where there's so many, where, like, if there's something like an injury or somebody breaks their leg or something like that, and they're out for, they can't work for 2-3 weeks, it's catastrophic.
Yeah, definitely. It'd take a long time to get caught up.
I mean, why are we living in a world where that works, where that's functional, or where that's the status quo?
I don't know. Is it just you think that like the population's grown so much that's part of the cause? That those factory jobs aren't here anymore. They're jobs are more skill based where you need some kind of degree supposedly, and that just kind of causes that inequality.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there's a fundamental problem somewhere, to where there's a fundamental problem where people are, going to school, getting out of school, getting a job. I would say that, I mean, I could walk down the street and I could say that a majority of the people on the street, while having these big homes and while having, a car or two, and whatever else, while they look fairly well off, I would say that all of those people have at least $50,000 in debt.
Oh yeah.
Be it credit cards, house loan, car loan, student loans. So to say that we are a richer nation is bogus. It's bogus to me.
I think it's shifted. I know, like it's something I heard. It was really interesting. It's like back in the 20s and 30s, like the biggest struggle for like the people who are a little bit not like in the middle class, like the poor, was like being able to eat. Like people would starve because they didn't have enough money to eat. And today, I guess like the biggest struggle for the poorer class is like obesity. So you see that shift. Like food is readily available cheaply, but everything else. I don't know where I'm really going with this, but it's just kind of an interesting concept to think like back in the day, people struggled to eat, but now people who can't afford certain things,
people are struggling to stay thin.
Yeah.
Because well, to sum up that argument, it would be like, why is it I can buy a hamburger or a cheeseburger at McDonald's for 99 cents, but a salad costs $4.99?
Yeah.
Like, how does that fucking compute? And the stupid thing of it is that most of that, most of the shit that's healthy for you, salad, fruits, vegetables, you can grow that shit.
Yeah, grow it on your own. Have your own little garden and all that stuff.
You can fucking make it yourself, and it's free. You put seeds in the ground, and these things come out. And then you have food. But no, I'll go to the store, and I'll spend fucking $40 on produce.
Yeah, what you spend on that one salad you could buy all the seeds and everything you need for,
to feed you for months.
Yeah.
Months. You could go to, say, like a Walmart or some store that sells seeds, and you could buy enough. You could spend $20 and buy enough seeds to plant and grow and feed you for months. Like at least 2 months. That would take care of your vegetable / produce, whatever, part of the grocery bill for months. You just pop, you take, like, you say you grow green beans. You bag them up, you throw them in your freezer, you're good to go.
And if you get to the point where you can't afford to go out on a date and meet anybody, just hop right in the ocean. You can find Stinky the dolphin.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Why buy the dolphin when you can get the sex for free?
This was interesting. This was like one of our politically or opinion column episodes.
Yeah. But you know what? I mean, the sad part is honestly, like we talked about this and that and the other, but like the issue really went nowhere. Like I have no solution.
I couldn't. We could talk about this for days. I don't think I could come up with a good solution for it. I mean,
so there's the lesson, kids. Life isn't fair. Sometimes it beats you and it kicks you in the teeth, and then it rapes you like a dolphin.
Sometimes you're the windshield. Sometimes you're the bug.
I have no idea what you're saying.
You've never heard that song?
No, I've never heard that song.
You have to Google it and check it out. It's a country song.
I don't want to.
All right. Well, I guess this is where we can do a Richard's closing thoughts. So.
There's always this, debate between the 1% and the 99%. You have that Occupy Wall Street bullshit, which was a bunch, honestly, in my opinion, it was a bunch of kids standing around for an excuse to hold a sign. But the point that they completely failed at making was that there is a problem with the way our money is being moved in this country. And I think that we definitely need to take a look at things like inequality, wage inequality, differences between middle class and upper middle class, and how a strong middle class and the middle class having a lot more money, free money, not free, but, dispensable money, that's what makes this country the greatest. And that's my closing thought.
I love it. I think this is what we need to do even when we have, podcast about chimp wars or, dolphins molesting scuba divers. We need to have Richard's closing thoughts.
And you let that dolphin be.
All right. Well, I'm going to take care of a little housekeeping.
He just wants some love.
So if you want to reach us on Twitter, we're at Language of Bro. You can email us. We have a new email address. It is eatthebeaver@languageofbromance.com. Our website is languageofbromance.com. You can like us on Facebook and always leave us a comment and subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher. We're looking for those comments, so if you get a chance, drop us a comment on iTunes. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. Do it.
And we're also found on a very awesome network. Where's that at, Richard?
That would be the Pod Brothers Network, Sean.
Pod Bros Network.
I don't understand why I constantly have to remind you of this.
I don't know.
They're gonna start to wonder, like, why does Sean always forget?
It's like, I mean, it's kind of part of their name if you just think about it. Bromance, Pod Bros. It's pretty close,
right? But yeah, he never gets it.
All right. Was there anything else you want to add before we close it out?
I almost had one. I was trying to see, like, before we were talking about, I felt like I was getting it kind of heavy. So now I was trying to think of something with the dolphin.
Little wit.
Yeah. Let's see.
You could wish me happy birthday.
Dolphins have a gang culture around finding and keeping sexual partners. As they become bisexual in later life, the dolphins work in packs to restrict the movement of female dolphins as they wait for her to become sexually receptive.
I thought you were going to bring us up. That just brings us down.
No, see, because honestly, it works just like humans. You got that one girl that's a little slutty, and the guys are kind of like, or the girl that's really kind of like, oh, kind of like. No, I'm not into any of this. And then you got a group of guys that are like, oh, come on, baby, come on. See, so we are just like the dolphins.
I think you should have just wished me happy birthday.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, that's all the bromance we have for this show. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Richard.
And I say, art, we eat.
the birthday cake. There, see, I made up for it.
There you go.